Hi, this is Dick Howe Jr. Usually I share my thoughts on local politics with you by typing on my website, richardhowe.com. But today I'd like to start using video to bring you a more in-depth look at certain issues. Today I'd like to talk about the Residency Ordinance that the City Council will address this coming Tuesday night. I don't know what the outcome of the vote will be, but I do know that a little bit of history is usually very helpful to any debate. So what we're going to explore today is the history of the Residency Ordinance adopted by the Lowell City Council back in the early 1990s. That ordinance was passed by the City Council on October 6, 1992. The council that passed that ordinance consisted of Mayor Tarsi Poulias, Councilors Bud Caulfield, Jerry Durkin, Dick Howe Sr., Kathy Kelly, Bobby Kennedy, Curtis LeMay, Bernie Lemoyne, who was the motion's author, and Dick O'Malley. Dick Johnson was the city manager. It was a close vote. It was only 5-4. Now, just 14 months later, that same council modified the Residency Ordinance. That was on December 7th, 1993. Now, the reason, or the way that the ordinance was modified, was to allow the city manager discretion to waive the requirement that newly hired city employees move into the city. That if the city manager felt that there were extraordinary circumstances, he would waive the residency requirement, and that waiver had to be ratified by the city council. It was the same 9 councilors with one exception. By that time, Bobby Kennedy had left. He had been replaced by Ray Rourke, but Ray Rourke was not able to complete that full term, and so the 11th place finisher in the prior council election, Chuck Karagianis, was sitting on the council on December 7th. The first councilor we will hear speak was one who advocated a modification of the Residency Ordinance, who didn't think requiring people to live in the city was a very good idea, and he cited some police officers who had moved into the city from other jurisdictions. And this councilor is Edward Bud Caulfield, who just happens to be our mayor and is the only member of today's city council who was on the 1992 council that adopted this ordinance. So here's Bud Caulfield speaking on December 7th, 1993.
Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, how many police officers transferred into the city of Lowell, the Lowell Police Department?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe there are 7 totally. There's 4 who have been on about a year that are coming up right now. The young man.
So there'll be a total of 7.
I think there's a total of 7 altogether.
Okay, I'll be very brief, Mr. Mayor. This amendment makes common sense. Common sense. We're talking about 7 well-trained, highly recommended police officers coming into the city of Lowell. Not candidates coming out of the police academy. They go right onto the street and do a great job, and from what I understand, they are doing that. That's common sense to have those police officers come on board. If we tell those police officers you're going to have to move to Lowell and it creates a hardship for them, then we're losing, as well as those police officers. Getting back to those people who have master's degrees in education or as far as public health or the library concerns, we should look at those people who have those high qualities and hire those people. This is an amendment to this ordinance, and I would support it.
Thank you, Councilor.
And the final video clip we hear is from City Councilor Dick O'Malley.
Yes, I think that you have arguments on both sides here, but as far as getting the best qualified candidate, this ordinance doesn't restrict them from getting the best qualified candidate. All it does is tell them that they have to live where they work. By doing so, they are going to spend their money where they make their money. I work out of town. I work in Cambridge. Now, Can you stand there and tell me that they can't find someone in Cambridge to do my job? Certainly they can. Many people qualified to do that job. And there are many people in the city of Lowell qualified to do any job that comes up in the city of Lowell. These are no rocket scientists that we're bringing into Lowell. We have over 100,000 people in the city of Lowell. I have never seen one rocket scientist come from out of the city of Lowell that really made the sun shine over the city of Lowell. This just opens the door so we can do the hiring and the firing as well be, as it was in the past. This is our home, right here. If we don't take care of it, if we don't take care of our people, we're not going to have it. All your big positions are going to be filled by people out of this city. You can bet on it. I think when this ordinance was brought in here, it was a good ordinance. It was passed, and I think we should stay with it to protect our own people here. If I was told in the city of Cambridge that I had to move there because I worked there when I initially took that job, then that would be my decision. If I wanted to make that kind of money, then I should be willing, and I wanted that type of job, which was a good job, then I should be willing to give something up. I cannot see coming into the city of Lowell making big money and taking it away from here when we are suffering here. We need jobs for the people in Lowell, and that's what we should be working towards. And you bet your life, there are a lot of qualified individuals in this city that are out of work, and they could fill any position in this city from the top position down. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor.
Well, on December 7th, 1993, the council voted to modify the ordinance to give the city manager the discretion to hire people and not require them to move into the city. Just a few months later, almost entirely new council in March of 1994 abolished the residency requirement altogether. That council consisted of Mayor Dick Howe Sr., Bud Caulfield, Matt Donahue, Michael Gary, Steve Gendron, Laurie Machado, Larry Martin, Grady Mulligan, and Tarsi Poulias. You might note that only Howe, Caulfield, and Poulias carried over from the previous city council. Now, I can't say that the residency ordinance played a big role in that year's election, the 1993 city council election, but it is significant to note that only 3 incumbent city councilors were reelected that year. For RichardHowe.com, this is Dick Howe. Thank you for joining me, and please watch for our next video.